Hello my good friends, I hope you are all doing fine. Welcome to the channel Digimon Explained. My name is Jesse and in this video we're going to be discussing a very unique Digimon that is quite exciting to discuss. Its name is Aegiomon, a champion level deity Digimon. You will quickly understand why it is very unique. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I always love to take some attention to the name of a Digimon because it ultimately defines basically the entirety of the Digimon. Aegiomon's name comes from the word Jove Aegiochus, which is an epithet for the mythological god Jupiter. Now, what is an epithet, you might wonder? It's an adjective or phrase expressing a quality or attribute regarded as a characteristic of the person or thing that is mentioned. And in this case, it is the quality of the god Jupiter, who is also called Jove. When we say Jove Aegiochus, it basically means Jove, the holder of the goat or Aegis. This explains why Aegiomon has at least the part of a goat. And it also explains why Aegiomon has many variants, as when you consider its name, which refers to an aspect of the god Jupiter, it will also show different aspects of itself. Now Aegiomon has an appearance fusing the lower body of a goat with the upper body of a human. At first I almost mistook it for another demon Digimon in reference to the demon Baphomet. But combining a Digimon with a goat must not always mean that it is a demon. And speaking of Baphomet, the Digimon who truly is inspired by it is mythological, who we discussed in the explaining APOCALYMON video. If you haven't seen it already, make sure to check it out. The link towards it is in the description box. Aegiomon is a musician and is a member of the same musical troupe as Sirenmon, a deity Digimon based on the Siren. In Greek mythology, the Sirens were birds with the heads of women whose songs were so beautiful that none could resist. The Sirens were said to lure sailors to their rock island, where the sailors met an untimely death. Sirenmon's voice has a miraculously sweet sound and actually has an 8-octave range from very high notes to very low notes. It brings tranquility even to devastated battlefields with its singing voice. It can sing a song in a high soprano whose notes suffuse the listener's heart and numb their free will, leaving them at Sirenmon's mercy. It can sing a solemn song in a low bass, which becomes a deep bass frequency wave that flattens the enemy through their semicircular canals so that they are unable to even stand. And it can attack the enemy using its singing voice as note-shaped shots, which are said to have the marvelous trait of ricocheting to always strike their targets and even separate enemies. Each of its technique has the characteristic of increasing in power if there are others singing alongside Sirenmon, corresponding to their quantity. Even the weak gain great power by singing in chorus with Sirenmon. So, Sirenmon can be devastating, but it isn't only that. It is said that by healing its listeners and performing good deeds, it will continue on to a shining digivolution, which we unfortunately don't have yet, unless you can point me out to one. In that case, we can do a Sirenmon digivolution live video. Now back to Aegiomon. Aegiomon plays the pipes called syrinx, which is hung at its waist, and it enjoys the music. It can play on its instruments to attract the attention of those who hear it, eventually stealing away their sense of self and blinding them to everything but Aegiomon. With this, it can produce an opportunity for other Digimon to flee from or pursue the listener. So all in all, Aegiomon is quite the peace-loving Digimon and don't really like to fight. It does have its ways, like for example beating the opponent while releasing the electricity circulating within its body from a portion of its arms, numbing the opponent's sensitivity and dulling their movements. But overall, it doesn't like to fight. But the irony is that it conceals within itself power that is unquantified. And when it fights to protect something, it exhibits unique talent for combat. Now here is something extremely interesting. Aegiomon has the special ability to synthesize the abilities of various species and use its human body as the base. With this ability, it can allow itself to jump at the ultimate level, but it can take on at least 4 different forms, which we'll get to in this video, starting with Aegiochusmon Blue. The synthesis of species is said to be the result of having sought the extreme, called omnipotence, and adapts it to its surroundings, dramatically altering its appearance. This form is composed of data taken from the cyborg tribe, so the data of the cyborg tribe sleeping within its body focuses itself on its upper body, particularly the left side, centered upon the crystal in its chest. Now it is equipped with a release for the characteristic power of the cyborg tribe, and a lock-on function which doesn't miss its designated target. Its gigantic left arm, the mechanization-powered arm, has the ability to attach and detach, and it is able to independently pursue and attack a locked opponent. The arm can also fire a beam from the fingertips, and it can charge energy in the palm while it's still attached, then releases it in a charge at the enemy. It somehow reminds me of Jupitermon, the cyborg Digimon, one who also has a mechanized arm which can take on many forms like the Axel arm, the Blitz arm or the Critical arm. We have yet to discuss the Digimon. Then there is Aegiochusmon Green. This form is composed of data taken from the plant tribe. So the data of the plant tribe sleeping within his body establishes itself as an upper body and arms, also centered upon the crystal in his chest. And now, because it is based on the plant tribe, its weight is especially light compared to its other forms. It became able to fire sturdy thorns from the busters equipped to both of its arms and perform tricky movements that hook its thorns in various places similar to rope action, the technique used by Paul Lee in the One Piece series. It's basically a fighting style based on using ropes in a variety of ways to bind, strike or defend against opponents. Good to know that even One Piece found its way into the Digimon digital world. And now, Aegiochusmon can use its rope for offensive and defensive purposes. In fact, it can even summon thorns transformed into an evil spirit which snaps at the opponent, and it can shoot numerous thorns from its entire body, tearing the surrounding opponents to pieces. But despite all of that, it would appear that its keen movements, which capitalize on its equipment and agility, can definitely be said to be this form's greatest distinction. Aegiochusmon can also synthesize the data taken from the evil tribe to become Aegiochusmon Dark, and here it became sort of like the Grim Reaper as it walks around with the scythe. Actually, it walks around with 3 scythes, and it became more and more wild and aggressive. For example, it instinctively eats while riding on a target, it chops opponents up with its 3 scythes, and it can use dark electricity in both its hands. Unfortunately, this has to be the form that has gotten the least bit of information. It isn't entirely fleshed out. Too bad, as it does have a great design and certainly has a lot of potential. To finish, there is Aegiomon Holy. This form is composed of data taken from the Angel tribe. So the data of the Angel tribe sleeping within its body covers its whole body, and its heart is as serene as a still lake. And in this form, it can launch countless daggers that rain down from the sky to avert enemies, it can flow lightning into its daggers and slashes the enemy like mochi, and it can create a defensive wall that bounces an opponent's attack back with a lightning strike. Aegiochusmon Holy is the only variant that can further digivolve in a mega level form, which is Jupitermon, a Digimon based on the Roman mythological god Jupiter, the god of the sky, very similar to the ancient Greek god Zeus. He struck down his enemies with bolts of lightning, and eagles were his sacred birds. He was also the king of the Roman gods and the most important of all the gods and goddesses worshipped across the Roman Empire. Jupitermon itself is a member of the Olympus 12, a group of 12 mega-level deity Digimon modeled after the Roman version of the 12 Olympians. And just like the god Jupiter, Jupitermon can also use thunder. It can, for example, construct an array of tiny thunderclouds summoned by exchanging blows with the opponent using the hammers in both of its hands, which automatically loses thunderbolts at those it judges as evil or those who hinder its arbitration. And it can convert its body into extremely high voltage plasma, inflicting divine punishment all around itself so that all those who are touched by it are completely disintegrated. Jupitermon is a Digimon that rules over thunder and weather as the god that presides over the skies. It is always judging good and evil on the battlefield and metes out divine punishment to those who choose evil. It does make the decisions dispassionately and excludes any emotion from its judgment. And it is said that if someone who continues to disagree with Jupitermon's judgment and wins, the judgment will be overruled. But it is said that none yet exist who could overturn it. Speaking of judgment, it has a technique called Punish Judge. It is a technique where it engraves a seal on the bodies of the opponents struck by its hammer, bestowing a reprieve to their punishments unless it decides to carry out the sentence, at which point they are smote with the thunder of an immense electric current. There is a bit of a history between Jupitermon and 2 other Digimon. First story is between itself and Plutomon, a deity Digimon who attacks evil with terror and violence. Both of them are similar as far as punishing evil, but Jupitermon doesn't want to admit Plutomon to the Olympus 12 due to its cruelty. In fact, Plutomon is even feared by good Digimon for this oddity of finding joy in chewing the wicked. And just in case, we did talk about Plutomon in the Explaining CERBERUMON Digivolution live video. If you haven't already, make sure to check it out. But that's why there's always been a long-standing discord between Plutomon and Jupitermon. Another bit of history is what it has with Junomon, another member of the Olympus 12. Both of them are partners in the battlefield, but they are also lovers. For your information, Junomon is based on the Roman mythological goddess Juno, a chief goddess and female counterpart of Jupiter, closely resembling the Greek Hera. Juno was connected with all aspects of the life of women, most particularly married life. More on her in another video. When push comes to shove, Jupitermon can change into its wrath mode. And you see, Jupitermon, who usually makes judgments without any emotions, undergoes a complete about-face when confronting those who have committed sins that cause it to be unable to restrain its anger. It summons its divine blade Keronos with an angry roar, and its body grows several tens of times larger, turning into a form clad in armor and lightning. With the blade, it can slash even distant enemies with a single swing. It can also drop it from high in the sky to cast its last judgment upon defeated sinners, and if it hits them, then they are guilty, and if it misses them, it serves as proof of being falsely accused. When found guilty by this technique, sinners will already have been erased along with their data. The violent lightning surrounding Jupitermon in its wrath mode is the embodiment of its anger, and while it behaves calmly, each of its movements are brimming with awe, driving enemies into a corner from the pressure. Hey guys, this is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I think that Aegiomon and its Digivolution line are very interesting. I love the relation it has with other Digimon like Sirenmon, or later on even with Plutomon and Junomon. This is how I enjoy Digimon the most. However, I do find it unfortunate that many Digimon in this line are sort of left without another Digivolution. For example, Aegiochusmon Red, Blue and Dark didn't get a Mega level form on the contrary to Aegiomon Holy. But overall, I like this line a lot. I like that it somehow reminds me of Maimon, who has many variants because it knows how to absorb the data of different sources, and also Gabumon, if you please, who was actually the first that introduced me to the concept of Digimon being able to absorb or take in data from other sources, altering their Digivolution path. So what are your opinions? Share them in the comment section, and in case you are new, know that all Digimon related videos are in the different Digimon playlists, which are always updated, that way you can catch up on newer and older videos. Small question, can you do me a solid by following my Instagram page? The name is the following, OhanuJ2. I would need Instagram for large projects, even though I absolutely detest even this platform, but it exists, so might as well make use of it, right?